Hey everyone, it's Melissa with Build a Better Bakery, and I'm here today with Miss Shawnté, who is going to talk to you about her business. She has a very unique setup with her baking business, and I just want her to be able to go through where she got started, some unique challenges she might have. We're going to run through some really interesting questions for you so you can get an idea of what she's doing with her business. So Ms. Shawnté, thank you so much for hanging out here with us today, taking a few minutes out of your day to answer some important questions for the baking industry.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for just to hop right in, because I know people are curious about what you do and how you work your business, let us know what's your business. Let us know a little bit about your baking journey. How'd you get started and where are you now?
Yeah, so my company name is The Better Bakery, and I'm based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And everything that I make is vegan, and it's made without gluten and soy and without butters and oils as well. So the way that I started actually goes back to when I was in college. I studied biology as my major and biochemistry as my minor, with no intention whatsoever of going into baking or starting a baking business. I was actually going to go into surgery. So completely different.
Yeah.
So I was about halfway through with my studies, and I started getting more interested in like the health side of biology. And I actually went into college fairly overweight. I ended up just learning about the importance of nutrition and exercise, and I lost 70 pounds just through applying what I was learning.
Wow. And that was in college you did that?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
That's rare, isn't it?
It was difficult.
Yeah.
But so I started cooking for myself and baking for myself, and I've always had quite a big sweet tooth, and I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find different pastries that were made in a way that I was starting to eat. So lower fat, lower carb, higher protein. I could kind of find stuff like maybe something that would be lower fat, but then have a lot of sugar. And I by no means think there's anything wrong with indulging in a good cookie or a slice of cake every now and then. But I wanted to be able to have like a go-to muffin that I wouldn't have to count as like a dessert. So things like that. So I started just kind of formulating my own stuff for baking. And then I started having people ask me to make things for them as well. So I feel like that's how a lot of baking business people get into business. They like start doing stuff for friends, and then other people see, and then they're like, oh, I have a birthday coming up, can you do this little thing for me? And then you're just like, okay, I'll do this and that. So that's kind of how I started selling stuff. And this is like where my college education came in, ironically, was when I was formulating for my recipes, because I worked in a few labs, my favorite of which was when I worked in a research and development lab, where my job was to hear the information that was given to me from the marketing department about what customers wanted. And then I would hit the lab bench and take different ingredients and different portions and put it all together and do testing. And that's like exactly what I do for my formulas, because there's really nothing else that I've found that's quite like what I make. So I'm having to like start from scratch and kind of mesh things together, figure out how it works, test and retest. And that's brought me to where I'm now, where I have a whole backstock of just like spreadsheets, just galore of different formulas that are tested and tried, and like different types of flours that I'm having to experiment with and stuff. So
that's so cool. I love that. I mean, I'm really into testing too. Like I made a post recently that as a baker, right, you want to like post all your wins and everything that you're doing online, and you want everyone to like, yay, you know. But I actually really like kind of messing up and sort of, I love doing like taste testing trials and sending out, even though I know it's not perfect, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I hope they don't judge me. Yeah. But I want to know about the flavor profile, and, you know, because what's the point of working on a recipe over and over again if people don't even, if they're not even interested?
Exactly.
So yeah, I totally am in that with you. So I know that's a unique challenge for sure, coming up with from scratch baking formula recipes, I mean, everything from the leavening issues to the liquid issues to the body issues and everything that happens when you take away a lot of the fats and the oils that are very consistently used in baking across the world, right? So taking that out. So if you can name another one besides that specific unique challenge, what would you say that you've come across with your products as maybe like this is something I really had to deal with?
Yeah, so along with that, I would say that another big challenge has been just being able to convey to the customers exactly what it is that I create, because there is nothing else like that. So they're like, a lot of people will ask like, oh, is it, is it vegan? I'm like, well, yeah, it's vegan and made without gluten and made without soy and without oils. And I also do some that are sugar-free. So it's very inclusive of different dietary needs. And so that kind of confuses people sometimes. They're just like, I don't really know exactly what this is. So, and I'll have like things written out when I do markets and stuff. I'll have like signs that explain stuff, but people still are sometimes a little bit confused.
Yeah, like if that's not in there, then what's in it?
Yeah, exactly. I get that question a lot. They're like, well, is it just air? I'm like, it's not just air.
That's for sure. Another one that I had. So did you mention how long you've been in business? Like actual from
I became an official business about a year and 8 months ago.
All right. So getting on to 2 years.
Yep.
So after that amount of time, plus all of your back knowledge about, the science into baking and what's going on with that, I know it's hard to pick, but if you could pick 2 little golden nuggets of wisdom that if someone just came up to you, that you just met them and they were like, hey, look, I love what you're doing. I want to start my own business. I want to do baking. Like, what are some top tips? Just the first top 2.
Yeah, so I would probably advise a new business owner or someone looking to start a business to start small and progress little by little, because you quickly find that there are a lot of opportunities and you can very easily grow past your means. So you can become overwhelmed, and then that can lead to a lower quality product, lower quality interactions with your customers. So I know like it gets really exciting and you have a lot of stuff available to you, but that's something I've kind of had to learn too, is like slow down and actually put more cognizant thought and effort into the little steps, so that way you get it right, or closer to right, because there's a process to it. So you're not going to always do everything perfectly, but if you take your time and try to do things correctly, then you're building a stronger business that way for the long term. So that would be my first piece of advice.
Yep.
Second, which I know you've touched on this too, in your advice, is to not say yes to every order. So to know to know the worth of your time and your effort. And I've actually, before I did this, I had a small business where I would crochet things for people. So I do custom orders, and I was pretty young then. I was like 17, 18. I would always like say yes to every order that would come in. I'd get like an order for a $40 blanket, and it's like a blanket could take 10 hours to crochet.
Yes.
And like you get so excited, you're like, oh, somebody wants my product, but then it ends up not being very fair to you and not very fair to your customers, because you can't sustain that pricing. And then more customers are gonna come along and be like, well, my friend Sarah got this blanket for $40, how come you're charging me $60? And yeah, so knowing your worth and pricing accordingly, and being able to say no to orders that are not worth it, I think is very important.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, like especially any handmade stuff, so crochet, painting, art, whatever it is you're doing, a lot of people don't know anything about it. So when they, like specifically with baking, I feel like one of the worst things that happened to the industry, even though it's like, I like it and people have gotten a lot of use out of it, and I think it's good entertainment, or these cooking, like baking shows. Because they're like 1 hour bakers, and then they have like a 10-tier wedding cake. And I'm like,
yeah, that's not realistic.
Yeah. And so people are like, oh, then why are you charging? I'm like, I taught a class a couple years ago, and there was a lady, she just got her doctorate. And she was in the class and she's like, wow, like I understand now. And it was just decorating. I baked everything. I did everything except they just put it together. And we were there for 3 hours. She was like, oh, I can't believe it. That's so much work. And I was like, and you didn't even do like any of the before stuff. And then I asked her, how much do you make per hour? And then I said, okay, so now think about the price of a cake.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, like I've never like added, I've never like thought through it. So and to what you have said, to circle around, is that it's our job, right? Like they're just going to keep asking for $10 things because we're in a free market, right? Like that's what's going to happen. So we have to say sorry. No.
And sometimes it's just not worth it. There may be those customers who are like, okay, like I'm willing to pay what you're asking, but a lot of times that's not what happens. And you just say, well, I'm not what you're looking for. There's another bakery down the road that makes stuff that's not like all vegan and everything, that you'll probably find what you're looking for.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is they might not even have wanted something really nice. They're like, look, it's like kid's birthday party. I don't even care.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, that's not me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've definitely had to do that sometimes, been like I'm not exactly what you're looking for. You want just like, other like, I don't want to say like normal baking stuff, but just like stuff you get from grocery stores.
Yeah, I mean, they're paying more per specialty, and if they don't care, then might as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you and I have connected in the kind of Build a Better Bakery neighborhood, specifically in the Bakery Business School Facebook group. If anyone's watching, if you're in here, if you want to join, it's open to anybody. It's a free group with mentorship and other bakers, just like Shawnté, who have businesses or who are looking to start their businesses. So I was wondering if you could pick out one win or one aha kind of moment that you maybe got from being involved in our little neighborhood. What would it be if you can think of something?
So one piece of wisdom that I've gained from Build a Better Bakery would be your suggestion on having a minimum order. So I did have a minimum order before, but it was way too low. And I was realizing that it just was not worth my time and my effort to have a minimum order so low, because that means I'd have to get up, like get everything cleaned and get the bakery all together just to make, I think my minimum order was like 4 muffins. And I was like, that's just not worth it. So now it's a dozen. So now I have to have a minimum order of a dozen muffins right now. And usually I'll try and stockpile that onto other orders that I have going on the same day. So that way it's more worth my time to do that all together.
Exactly. And I think if anybody has a commercial kitchen, if they're kind of like running all the time, they have a case, there might be more opportunities to just say, like, if people are already walking in and buying one cupcake, then whatever, that's fine. But custom stuff like you and me right now, we have to literally get up off of a chair, physically like start the process, and for sure, definitely into those minimums. And some people who are new to baking, like you said at the very beginning with your crochet, there's a market for someone who's willing to do that, to learn and to have the opportunity to serve. And we can that's their they can do that now. Yeah. And we'll do that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we've gotten a good view of where you started, where you're at, what you're doing with yourself now, all of your really awesome formulas. You're probably unique signature, only one in the world, because you've created them from scratch. So it'd be hard to think that something exactly the same would exist somewhere else. You've done all this hard work. You've started the Better Bakery. And I was wondering if for our last question, you could share 2 future goals that you want to accomplish with your business and kind of speak them into being, and maybe we can all support you here in the group with those goals too.
Yeah. So a couple of goals I have for the near future. I'm hoping to actually have my own dedicated kitchen and office space. So that's a possibility in the near future. And growing onto that, I would also like to have a storefront, because right now I sell like at different coffee shops on top of doing my the orders that I get in online. So being able to have like my own storefront, I could always have that stocked. I think that would be good. And then also being able to hire at least 2 people who are interested in learning about healthy baking and even possibly starting their own business from there.
So you want to hire them in to work for you, right? and then you want them to leave after a certain period of time, or how do you want that to work?
I mean, if that's their goal is to leave and start their own business, I think that's fantastic. But initially just people who are interested in mostly like the health side of it and just kind of being able to bake and cook more healthily.
Do you have a timeline for your goals?
As far as the first one, for getting my own kitchen office space, hopefully within the next year, that will happen. As far as a storefront, that's kind of more of like a 5-year goal. And then like a 2 or 3 year goal for the hiring process. So.
Well, sweet. Well, thanks for sharing those with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All your good info. Is there anything else you want to share or say before we end our little interview?
Don't think so. I think just that if you are looking at starting your own business, it's a little daunting at first, for sure. But just take that first step and take things as they come.
Great. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us and sharing all about the Better Bakery. If anyone that's watching is interested in following Shawnté, I'm going to share the social links and I'm going to share her website so that you can check out what she's doing online. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.